Joining us now to discuss is John Schweppe, the Director of Government Affairs for American Principles Project. Thanks for being here tonight, John.
Thanks for having me, Kara.
Great. So, okay, first, let's just get this out the way first. How much of a role do you think special interests like Amazon and the Chamber of Commerce played in Governor Noem backtracking on this bill?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she came out, she was very enthusiastic in support. I believe that was March 8th, so a couple Mondays ago. And then all of a sudden, the legislators who introduced the bill, leadership in the House and Senate in South Dakota, they're reaching out to her, trying to see what's going on. And she was completely silent. The only people she was talking to were the media, who she kept giving increasingly, worried statements about the bill, not sure what she thinks of it. And of course, these special interest groups. Amazon, 1,000 jobs at this plant in Sioux Falls. We know they put pressure on Republican governors all the time to push against conservative legislation. And so we just see this, and unfortunately, Governor Noem, someone I think we all thought would stand up against these special interests. I mean, here was a layup for her to really catapult her star and become one of the stars in the Republican Party. She just had to take on Amazon and the NCAA, and she whiffed, as you said in your monologue. She just totally muffed it, and now, unfortunately, I don't think we'll be talking about her the same way ever again.
Yeah, it is so disappointing because, like you say, I had a lot of hope for her. Many of us did, in fact. And I know you were following her press conference earlier today, and it seems like she may be trying to divert at least some attention away from herself, some of the criticisms, and onto these mysterious legal scholars who she claims were informing her that this bill wouldn't stand up to scrutiny if the NCAA, for example, were to take it to court. What do you think of that? What did you think of her conference today?
If Governor Noem comes out and tells us who those legal scholars are, I'll give her $500 to her campaign, because I don't believe they exist. I got to be honest with you. Today's press conference was a joke. I mean, she was trying to get out in front of this and make sure it was clear, that she could maybe confuse her constituents and make them think that she's supporting women's sports. But the reality of it was she's vetoing this bill. She offered up this style-informed veto, which the legislature would have to completely accept all of her changes or it dies. And this is a veto. And it's just really sad to see, after she just promised 2 weeks ago that she was excited to sign this bill, now all of a sudden she's vetoing it because Amazon and the NCAA told her to.
Talk to me about some of those. I believe there are 4 sections total in this bill. 2 or so of them were being changed or scrapped altogether. Talk to me about some of those changes and some of the concerns you have with that.
Sure. So she did, this is a style-informed veto, again, which means grammatical changes, right? Like supposedly just fixing a couple sentences here and there. So there's 4 sections to the bill. She scrapped Section 2 and scrapped Section 4. Section 4 would have been the right to allow people to actually sue. Section 2 was the enforcement mechanism, basically having schools and these athletic organizations have athletes sign a document attesting to their, age and sex. She got rid of both of those. And then in the first section, she added language that would basically say biological sex as defined by your birth certificate. Now, it's well known across the country that there's efforts to allow transgender individuals to change their sex on their birth certificates. South Dakota does not have a statute on that. There was a bill that was designed to prevent that from happening. That bill failed. So it's not clear why that language would be included other than to allow biological males to compete in women's sports. So again, for her to come out and say that she's defending women's sports, she's trying to defend Title IX, it's just very disingenuous and disappointing to those of us who have been following.
And as you've mentioned, the style and form veto of it is usually it comes down to wording changes, kicking it back down to the legislature. But this sounds like gutting it and completely rewriting parts of this bill in the first place. Is this even a constitutional use of the style and form veto?
Well, I think she's going to face a lot of pushback from the legislature, even beyond the issues with her proposed changes, because this is an unconstitutional style and form veto. And again, this is a legislature that wants to maintain a separation of powers. They're thinking about future precedent. They can't be allowing the governor to come in and misuse this constitutional process. So I think she's going to find that the bill will die. And I think actually, sadly, that's kind of what she's hoping for. It would need a 2/3 majority in both the House and the Senate to override her veto. And this bill just barely passed the Senate to begin with. The Senate is where the Chamber of Commerce, all these corporate interests really do lie. So, I think this is all designed to say that she's, say publicly that she's fighting for this issue. She's got that nice petition on her website that was designed sometime over the weekend. But the reality is she's killing the bill and she knows it.
Yeah, talk to me about this petition, because I saw it and I was just like, if only there was someone in power, a Republican in power, wink, wink, Kristi Noem, who could actually bring this petition to life. So it's not just a piece of paper or an online petition that people fill out and type in. I feel like at some point, it's how the Republican Party is nowadays. They ask you to sign petitions. They ask you to constantly donate over every issue. And then when they get the chance to actually fix the issue in question, they never do it at all. Is this kind of a representation of, a problem that's deeper in the party itself?
It almost feels like it should be an article on the Babylon Bee. I mean, it really is just laughable. She could sign and protect women's sports right now. She could decide to do it. The bill is great. It's a bill that's very similar to the bills that have been introduced all across this country. We're up to 28, 29 bills that have been introduced across the country. She just has to sign it. But, this almost feels like a fundraising, as you said, like a fundraising thing, maybe getting ready for the 2022 campaign. And I got to say, that's not going to go very well. We're hearing a lot from people in the state who are outraged at her. She's thinking about 2024 running for president. She's going to have to worry about her gubernatorial reelection if she doesn't sign this bill, because it's a total betrayal of what she said she was going to do.
Should it serve as a cautious tale for Republicans? Because I know I saw it all online as well, of so many Republicans so excited about a DeSantis Noem ticket possibly for 2024. But does this serve as a cautious tale for Republican voters to really, truly analyze each politician as they come, each candidate, and especially a lot of these Republicans who do have so many corporate ties and so many special interests?
Well, I think you're right. I think that's what it comes down to. People are going to be looking to 2024, looking for a candidate who will fight, right? A lot like what Donald Trump did. And maybe Donald Trump ends up being the candidate in 2024. But if it's not Trump, it's got to be somebody who can kind of do what he was able to do. And that means not buckling at pressure from these, companies. Amazon threatening to leave the state. If you're not going to let us pass bills and fight for our daughters, then leave. We don't want you. And I think we need politicians who are willing to stand up and say that to these left-wing moneyed interests. And unfortunately, Governor Noem doesn't seem to be that person.
And just before I let you go, I want to hear you weigh in on this, because it's a pattern I've been noticing. And at first it sounds great, but then you dive deeper into it, it doesn't seem so great. We're hearing a lot of these big tech companies, all these Silicon Valley companies, they're leaving California, New York, the coastal elite areas, and they're moving toward red states. Texas, Florida, here, South Dakota. We're talking about Amazon. It seems great because it seems like vindication of Republican policy. It shows that we have, we incentivize business growth and safe communities and safe areas that people want to move into. But then you dive deeper into it, and it's kind of terrifying how a lot of these, they bring their blue state and blue city policies with them. Amazon, for example, in South Dakota. Is that a worrying trend we should keep our eye on in these states?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've seen this in several red states that are shifting towards purple, Georgia being a classic example, too. We've seen these corporations move there, promise economic benefits to the people of Georgia, promise jobs, and then what do? They try to upend the democratic process. So, yeah, I think it's very concerning. I've seen a lot of people talking about this online with Texas. If the Democrats take Texas, it's kind of game over. So we really need to protect Texas. And I do worry that these woke corporations are coming in there. Hopefully, Governor Abbott and the Republicans in Texas will continue to hold the line and push back against any effort to do that.
John, always a pleasure having you on. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Kara.
And coming up next, Biden sure is generous when he's spending your money. Though, of course, in order to cash in on that offer, you can't be a law-abiding American citizen. As we know, in this upside-down world, only criminals are rewarded. I'll explain after the break.